When I see you dancing, I'm like, hola, 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 hola. With your move fancy, make me wanna hola, 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 hola. I got your attention, spending that moolah, 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 moolah. I'm a drop popping, pocket, swola, 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 swola.
You're listening to the Greeks Gridiron, live with Ethan Haristadoulou.
Swola, 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 swola.
Welcome, everybody, to the Greeks Gridiron. It is February 1st, 2021. Big week, Super Bowl week. We have 6 days until the big game. Tampa Bay Buccaneers going one-on-one with the Kansas City Chiefs for the World Football Championship. Big show for you guys today. We're going to be doing a little bit of a weekend roundup just to kind of see what happened this past weekend, and then we're going to go straight into talking about this week's game. So first things first, before we get things rolling on the show, we're going to start things off with a question of the day. It has to do with the Super Bowl that's coming up this Sunday. Question for you all: Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes? Who's throwing for more yards this Sunday? If you didn't know, Tom Brady holds not only the record, but also the second best record for most passing yards in a Super Bowl. Hello, gravy. For most passing yards in a Super Bowl. He holds the record at 505. Second best record is at 466. And I believe the only other quarterback to throw for 400 plus yards in a Super Bowl is Kurt Warner. Gravy, I'm going to have to move you here for a quick second, buddy. Kurt Warner at, I believe it is 416 total yards. So of the 3 times the Super Bowl had a 400 plus yard quarterback, twice it was Brady, and then the other time Kurt Warner way back in the early 2000s. But who do you got, Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes, for most passing yards in the big game? I'm thinking, Brady has the record for the most and the second most. However, welcome to the show, Black Knight. but yeah, I'm thinking I'm going to go with Patrick Mahomes. That offense has just been absolutely electric from, the beginning of the season to the end of the season, and especially so in this playoff push to the Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes has just been lights out. I have a strong feeling that we're looking for something maybe along the lines of like 300, 325, maybe even 350 yards from Mahomes. Brady's probably going to cross the 300-yard mark as well. I'd be honestly shocked if both of these players don't throw for over 300 yards. I think Mahomes is probably going to get closer to that mid-350s, 375 range. We'll kind of see from there. But who do you guys got? Comment down below. Brady or Mahomes? Who's throwing for the most passing yards? Moving forward, though, the weekend roundup, we're just going to kind of break down some of the news that happened this past weekend. Not a whole lot going on. First things first, if you didn't see the video I posted yesterday morning after it all happened, Matthew Stafford officially gone from the Lions. He is moving to the Los Angeles Rams, as Jared Goff is moving from the Los Angeles Rams over to the Detroit Lions. The Lions were able to pull in not only Goff, but a 3rd-round pick in this year's draft, a 1st-round pick in next year's draft, and a 1st-round pick in the 2023 NFL draft. So Lions getting a big haul there. Quarterback that is young, has showed promise, but has also struggled here and there. He's kind of been back and forth, Jared Goff, but they do have somebody to replace Matthew Stafford, at least in the interim, whether they decide to draft a quarterback, maybe in the 2nd round or something like that, going forward in this year's draft, or maybe who knows if they try to deal Jared Goff. I don't really know what their plan's going to be with. I would think that he's not the future for them, but maybe at least for this moment, the next year or two, they'll see what they got with him. They do have 4 years left on Jared Goff's $106.6 million deal. So there's a lot of money still there. There's plenty of years left on the contract. For all we know, maybe they play it out the first couple of years, see how he does, and if not, they just cut him loose from there. But Stafford has moved on over to the LA Rams. The Rams no longer have a 1st-round pick until the 2024 NFL draft, so they really went in big on Matthew Stafford. I believe their hope is that Matthew Stafford is kind of like the last piece to the puzzle for them. Their defense was ranked number 1 in points allowed and yards allowed this year, so they had a top defense. The Rams defense was no joke. They just did not have the offensive firepower to match up with those other playoff teams. As you saw when they played the Packers, it just seemed like they fell behind early, and it never really felt like the Packers were in danger of losing the game, even though the game was somewhat close. But that Rams offense just did not have the firepower they needed with Jared Goff. So I believe that they're hoping that Matthew Stafford, being a perennial passer, he has thrown for multiple 4,000 plus yard seasons. He has a 5,000 yard season under his belt. He can put up the numbers. He's got the big arm. He can make great throws. Not a lot of people know how good Matthew Stafford actually is because of the fact that he's been on the Detroit Lions. So with that being said, hopefully Matthew Stafford can do something with the Rams, and maybe we'll see him back in the playoffs next year. Hopefully this works out on both ends for them. The Lions obviously got a huge haul of picks. That's going to be great for them to help start building around this team that they want to put together. And then obviously the Rams now have what they believe is a top-tier quarterback to really push them deep into the playoffs and maybe even to the Super Bowl next year. Moving on from that, though, the Senior Bowl was also this past weekend as well. A lot of standouts in the game. Basically, if you don't know what the Senior Bowl is about, it's for any college seniors that are looking to play maybe one last game with the remaining seniors that are coming out and heading into the draft as well, to basically just give their, one last show of this is what I can do for you guys to those NFL teams that are maybe considering them and they aren't sure where they're going to be falling in the draft. The MVP of the night was Kellen Mond of Texas A&M. He was their quarterback. He threw for 13 of 25. He completed 13 of 25 passes, 173 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. A good showing. Obviously, can't ask for much more in a big game like that. Fairly solid numbers. Leading the national team to that 27-24 victory, accounting for 14 of those points. A few other standouts for the game. Michael Carter, the running back from UNC, put up some good numbers. 8 carries, 60 yards, averaging about 7.5 yards a carry. That's about as good as you could ask for in a big game like that. 7.5 yards a carry is phenomenal. You're playing against the other top senior prospects that are coming out of the college ranks and moving into the NFL draft and hopefully getting themselves on a team. So 8 carries, 60 yards, awesome showing for him. Demetric Felton, he's a running back, but he played wide receiver during this game from UCLA. 2 catches, 28 yards, and a touchdown. Good numbers there. Amari Rodgers, another wide receiver, 4 catches, 23 yards, a touchdown. And then Keith Taylor, the cornerback from Washington, he did let up a touchdown during the game, but he did have an awesome interception as well, so he did have a big pick there for him. So few standouts from the game. Overall, the Senior Bowl, very good game, good showing for a lot of these players, hopefully just raising their stock before they head into the NFL draft. Now, enough about this past weekend. We have quite a game going on this Sunday. Very excited to talk to you guys about it. I have an entire Super Bowl preview lined up for you, a bunch of matchups, stats, and things like that to just kind of go over and talk about. But before we get into all those things, what I want to start you all off with is with some of the storylines that are going into this game. First things first, the Bucs, the big one, being the very first team in the Super Bowl's history to host a Super Bowl. Absolutely massive. It's been going on for the last 55 years. No team has ever hosted their own Super Bowl. There were plenty of opportunities where teams were good enough to potentially host their own Super Bowl. I believe the Saints a few years back when it was in the Super Bowl, they had a good shot being as good of a team as they were. There's been a few teams here and there that have, played really well and looked good in the season, but ultimately fell up short, making it to the big game for that year. So the Bucs being the first team to host a Super Bowl, pretty exciting. I mentioned this last week as well. Go figure, of all people to make it happen, the man himself, Tom Brady, who's making his 10th Super Bowl appearance. I mean, if somebody was going to will a team to the Super Bowl and host their Super Bowl at their own field, I'm not very surprised that it's going to be Tom Brady, but a rather exciting thing to be having this year for the 55th anniversary of the Super Bowl. Excuse me for a second. Moving on from that, second storyline for the week. This actually came out last week as well. I was reading about this, and I thought this was rather interesting. Brady obviously chasing his 7th ring. I made a joke before about this being his opportunity to be able to wear a different ring each and every single day of the week if he really wanted to, should he win this Super Bowl this Sunday. But for those of you that did not know, Brady was actually mulling wearing the number 7 on his jersey going to Tampa Bay. He wanted to basically reset and, to start fresh. He was going to a new team, maybe a new number, and he was thinking of picking number 7 in honor of his 7th push towards that Super Bowl. And, what a story that would have been if he did go with that number. I think it would have been phenomenal to see him wearing number 7 playing in this Super Bowl. But I mean, that is a double-edged sword because if they don't win the game and he was rocking that number, my God, talk about eating your words. But I thought that was a pretty funny thing to see. Brady in number 7 would have been quite a weird sight. He's obviously worn number 12 his entire career for the 19 years he was on the Patriots. To see him go to a new uniform and swap numbers, that would have been pretty crazy as well. Third storyline going into the game, Mahomes and the Chiefs looking to be on a very short list of teams that have been able to repeat in the Super Bowl. The last 2 times it happened were with the Patriots. Before that, it was the Broncos back in the 90s. Not a whole lot of teams have been able to do it. Very short list in the history books have been able to repeat Super Bowls, being a quarterback and his team. Mahomes obviously looking to really stamp his name in the history books. Obviously being a very young quarterback, he's made it to the Super Bowl and won it once. He already has a Super Bowl MVP and an MVP award under his belt. So wouldn't it be something else for him to be able to stamp his name in the history books and just go back to back this year as well? And my goodness, do they have the team to do it? I'm excited to see if they are able to do it. If you haven't followed my previous shows at all, I have predicted that the Chiefs are going to edge out the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in this Super Bowl. I firmly believe that they just have too much offensive firepower. They've given every single defense they've played this year issues. I just have a very hard time seeing the Chiefs not winning this game, but obviously we will see on Sunday. And then lastly, this one came up on Good Morning Football the other day, and I can't even believe this, but in Mahomes' last 26 starts, he is 25-1 because he did not start the Week 17 game that they chose to lose on purpose because they really had nothing to play for. They were the locked-in number 1 seed. They wanted to give Mahomes a day off. And so 26 starts, 25-1 record, that one loss coming to the Raiders earlier this season. I believe that was back in week 6. I could be wrong about that. Don't quote me on that date, but that is pretty crazy to me. 25-1 in the last 26 games. I mean, you can't ask for, a more impressive career. I did have the numbers somewhere. I believe Mahomes is 44-6 in his entire career, or it's 44-9, including the playoffs. One of those two. Consider myself quoted. I'm not quoted on this one, but yeah, I believe I want to say I have it written in my notes here. Gravy's looking at this wire too. Let me throw this off to the side. Put that in there. Let me see. I have it written in the notes somewhere. What is his career? Yeah, so he is 44-9 is in his entire career. That's a pretty absurd starting set of wins and losses for you for such a young quarterback. 44-9 in his career. But yeah, so those are some of the storylines that are going into the big game. A lot to look forward to, a lot to be excited about. History being made all over the place, whether one team or the other wins. Brady getting his 7th ring, the Bucs hosting the Super Bowl, Mahomes and the Chiefs looking to repeat. I mean, there's so much history that's going to happen, whether one team or the other wins and or loses. So you can't really be upset about this year's Super Bowl. Going forward, though, let's talk a little bit about Week 12. We'll kind of compare the quarterbacks. The last time these two teams played was back in Week 12 of the season. Brady obviously not being able to get the job done. Mahomes 27-24. The Chiefs came over the Bucs, so Mahomes had a massive game that day. 462 yards, 3 touchdowns. He had 124.7 quarterback rating. Massive game for him. He basically sliced and diced the Tampa Bay defense. Now, it's been about, what is this now? We are looking at, I believe, 8-9 weeks since that game has passed. A lot has changed. You can't really just look at that and say, oh, well, it's probably going to be Chiefs then. They already beat them once. Anything can happen. I repeat, anything can happen. A lot of people will point to the Buccaneers beating the Packers again just last week in the NFC Championship as, kind of the proof in the pudding, but that was a very different game. Rather than it being a complete blowout like it was when the Packers first lost to them, it was a much tighter, closer game all the way to the finish line there. So things can change in those weeks. I believe the Buccaneers have not actually lost a game since they lost that game to the Kansas City Chiefs. So they have a head of steam going into this game, massive win streak going on right now. Brady and that entire offense are finally clicking. They're a much different team than they were early on in the year. They're 11-5, but if you look at this team, you might as well look at them as like 8-0 right now because they are absolutely killing it at this point in the season. They are nothing like they were that first half of the season. Once the offense really started to get clicking and the defense really started to pick it up, they have been an absolute monster of a team. And I would argue that if you're going to pick a number 1 team, it's either going to be the Chiefs or the Buccaneers. I think that these two, if you were to reseed them, you would put Bucs at number 1. Chiefs would obviously stay at number 1. These two are the best in the AFC and NFC, period. Not much of a discussion. In terms of being well-rounded teams, they're pretty much as good as you can get for both sides. Now, Going into the game, I was kind of looking over just like, the importances of the game, where I think things are going to come down to the finish and what is important for these teams to kind of beat each other. And the two keys that I came away, first key being for the Bucs, for the Kansas City Chiefs, to be able to shut them down. Tyreek Hill, when they played in week 12, had 13 catches, 269 yards, and 3 touchdowns. He accounted for every single touchdown that Kansas City put up that week. That is monster numbers. You cannot let Tyreek Hill burn you for near 300 yards again. That is paramount to make sure they shut that down. Whether they put double coverage on him, if they have a safety and a corner staying on him, there's no way that they can play man-to-man on him. Tyreek Hill is leaps and bounds the fastest receiver in the league. You need to just make sure that your coverages stay on top of him. He cannot be allowed to just break free, or don't set him up man-to-man, because whoever you're putting on him man-to-man, it doesn't matter how good they are. It would take somebody like Jalen Ramsey or one of those top corners in the league to be able to play man-to-man to him. And I don't believe the Buccaneers have a corner like that can just run the field around with Tyreek Hill. It's going to take a lot of press coverage, bumping him off the line, trying to, make him take that extra second or two through his route. You have to shut down Hill because he is essentially the gas to this car, this Kansas City Chiefs offense. There's no way that they're going to win this game, let him put up 3 touchdowns and 270 yards again and be able to come out on top. So for me, the key for the Buccaneers to win this game is to neutralize, or at the very least, try to slow Hill down. If you can keep him under 100 yards and maybe a touchdown, you have a shot. He accounted for so much of that first game that hopefully if they keep him from putting up 3 scores like that, the Chiefs are going to have to go to other routes. Granted, they have Travis Kelce running through the middle at tight end, and he can play slot receiver if he really needs to, or on the outside. He is the leaps and bounds best tight end in the league. But if you take down Tyreek Hill, or at least, minimize his efforts, minimize his production, it puts you in a much better position as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Flipping the coin, though, as far as a key player to stop for the Chiefs, Brady. It seems to be the common denominator for any time a team that Brady is on is winning, is you have to stop Brady. You saw the Broncos back in 2015, Manning's last season there. That defense brought the pressure, shut Brady down. Anytime you see a team in big games like this take down the Patriots, it's usually because of the pressure. Defense, defense, defense. It's probably one of the oldest quotes in the NFL. Defense wins championships. It has to be the pressure that you bring to Brady. Now, the last time these two teams played, the Chiefs only had 8 QB hits, and they did have a sack. Not a ton of pressure, but enough, enough that they were able to hold the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to only 24 points. So the pressure is key. Brady has a tough time. He's not super mobile, obviously, like Patrick Mahomes. So, crushing that pocket, making it collapse, and having to force him to either throw into coverages he's not necessarily comfortable with, or just throw the ball before he wants to, which is already tough as is because Brady has one of the fastest releases in the NFL. You got to bring the pressure to him, though, and you have to minimize the amount of time that he's on the field. The Chiefs, they can move the ball as quickly as they want to, and I feel that they need to make sure they don't fall in that trap. You don't want to get into a shootout with Brady. The Falcons found out what happened when you got into a shootout with Brady in the Super Bowl a few years ago. That's where he put up his 505 yards. If he needs to throw that football, he can throw that football. The Buccaneers have the receivers, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans. I don't know if Antonio Brown's going to be playing. I don't know if that's been announced or not yet, if he's going to be out. I know he was out last week. Depending on how his knee is doing, he may be playing. And if he's in there as well, that's a stacked group of people to throw the football to. Obviously, Leonard Fournette and Ronald Jones in the backfield, they have all the pieces to throw that football around as much as they need to. And, they weren't rated as highly as I feel that they actually are in terms of league ranking for passing, because it took their offense that first 6, 7, 8 weeks to really get it together and get themselves moving. So very important that you bring the pressure to Brady, but not only bring the pressure, but try to keep him off the field. The Chiefs have a great offense. If they're not getting a first down every single play, or first down, second down, kind of try to draw out the drives a little bit more, spend a little more time scoring, obviously still get to the end zone. They have the ability to do so. They need to control the ball. They need to make sure Brady stays off the field. I got a question here, though, coming in from the chat. How big of a factor is Antonio Brown if he plays? He's listed as questionable, but he's coming off of an injury. So I was actually just mentioning this. The big thing with Antonio Brown, he didn't produce as much early on in the season, but he has a touchdown in the last 4 of the 5 games he played in. So obviously not including the championship game this past week. He wasn't there, but before that, 4 touchdowns in the last 5 games. He started to really pick things up. I think at that point, he really started to understand the offense, just like with Brady the first, 6, 7, 8 weeks. It took him a little bit to kind of gather everything. They had no preseason. It took the offense a while to really come together. Same thing for Antonio Brown because he came in late. Obviously, what was he suspended the first 6 to 8 weeks of the season? I don't remember exactly what it was. He came in late. He had to learn the playbook. He had to figure out what was going on, the cadences and everything. And granted, you have Tom Brady as your quarterback. He's there to help you through that. But it took him a while to catch on, but now that he's really starting to catch on, I think Antonio Brown is almost kind of like a dark horse factor to this game. If he's in the game and he's healthy and that knee's not holding him back, I think he has it figured out on this team now, and he's ready to go. And I could very well see Antonio Brown scoring a touchdown, putting up at least 50-plus yards or so in that game. I would not be surprised, nor put it past Brady to try to find Antonio Brown now that it seems they've really started to get that connection back and they've figured out this offense completely. Moving on from the key players for both teams to stop, though. Notable matchup. This is going to be something that I think is important in terms of the Buccaneers putting pressure on Patrick Mahomes. Andrew Wiley is their starting left guard. And for those of you that did not know, Eric Fisher tore his Achilles. He is out. He's not playing in the Super Bowl. So the reason I'm bringing up Andrew Wiley is because not only is their starting left tackle gone, but also Andrew Wiley via Pro Football Focus was ranked at a 54.9 out of 100. That's not good at all in terms of rating for the guard. Ndamukong Suh is a big man up front. This past season, he had 6 sacks, 44 tackles, and a forced fumble. So here's the deal. The reason I'm bringing this whole thing up is because pressure is going to be good for at least trying to disrupt the plays of the Kansas City Chiefs. Granted, they do run a lot of play action, and Mahomes is really great, kind of improvising and throwing on the run. But the more you can make Mahomes uncomfortable, the better. I would have a hard time arguing that Mahomes is better under pressure than he is. And actually, I do kind of have a stat that might kind of contradict what I'm saying, but at the same time, a quarterback is more comfortable standing in the pocket and throwing the football. Mahomes is like this random outlier, and we'll talk about that stat in a little bit that I was just mentioning there. But the left side of the offensive line for the Kansas City Chiefs is depleted and also not playing too well. This is going to be a big thing for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers had the 6th most sacks of the season. I believe they had 48 altogether. So pretty good at getting to the quarterback. They completely destroyed the starting backup or left tackle for, I said starting backup, that's redundant. The backup left tackle who started for the Packers last week in the NFC Championship game. So with that being said, they took advantage of a poor left tackle, but they had their starting left guard in. Wiley, clearly not the best at his position, and also, Eric Fisher being gone, that left side of the defense is going to be huge. So it starts with Ndamukong Suh and whoever's going to be playing on that left side to kind of attack that weak point now. The left side's important because that covers the blind side for the quarterback. The fact that they're missing their left tackle and their left guard really isn't rated too highly as well and has not been playing very well. This is going to be a big spot for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to attack. They got to bring the pressure. I know that Bruce Arians loves to have his defense blitz and force that pressure. The thing is can they just get can they get to Patrick Mahomes in time before he either rolls out of the pocket or before he just improvises and makes some crazy play? I mean, we all know Patrick Mahomes. He is a highlight reel waiting to happen. The thing is blitzing him, it's important, but the thing is you have to get to him. And the reason I'm saying that is because Mahomes under pressure, and this was a stat that I was just talking about, typically you look at a quarterback and you think, okay, under pressure, they're probably not going to be that great. They're going to be better sitting in the pocket than they are being forced out on the run or to roll out of the pocket. Mahomes somehow is some random outlier to this because out of all the pressure he has dealt with this season, Mahomes versus the blitz has 13 touchdowns, no picks, and 134.2 passer rating. So, like I said, this stat basically contradicts what I just said. The thing is, though, you have to actually get to him. So pressuring Mahomes is not enough. You need to get to him. You need to make sure that whoever's playing, not the rushers, but like those people playing linebacker, because zone coverage is going to be huge for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Like I said, they can't play man coverage. You need to make sure whoever's playing that second line of defense is watching what Pat Mahomes is doing. They have to make sure that, one, they have their area in the field covered, but also you need to make sure that he's not able to just roll out and threaten to move with his legs. When I was reading the stat, I literally could not believe it. I mean, 13 touchdowns, no picks, and 134.2 on pressure. That's stupid. That's ridiculous. You can't really ask for much more from your quarterback than that. So hopefully with that, I mean, the Buccaneers, like I said, they had the 6th most sacks this season, so they're really highly rated when it comes down to, getting to the quarterback and bringing him down. So that's the difference. It's not just getting to the quarterback, but bringing him down. They're ranked 6th in the league. Hopefully they can get to him. They were able to sack him twice in Week 12 when they last played. Obviously, that wasn't enough because, granted, the Chiefs ended up winning the game anyways. So it seems like not only do they need to bring the pressure, they need to make sure they get to him more. I'm thinking they need to sack Mahomes 3, 4, 5 times this game to really be successful. They are the team that can bring the pressure. They have a top, right outside the top 5 in terms of bringing that pressure and getting to the quarterback. So hopefully that works out for them. Another interesting stat that I came across while I was going through everything is the play action matchup here. Kansas City runs the 3rd most play action attempts in the NFL. So they're doing that all the time. And that's because they want to confuse the defenses. Are they running it? Are they passing it? They have the run threat with Le'Veon Bell, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and also Damian Williams. The issue is that they don't seem to run as much as they pretend they like to run. So with that being said, Tampa Bay is ranked number 7 against play action pass attempts. They have a 95.3 rating, which is really good. That's phenomenal. It's just a matter of, are they going to fall for those trick plays? Because the run defense on Tampa Bay is number 1 in the league. They're actually number 1 in all rushing defensive categories that are like of significance. Kansas City isn't even ranked on the top 10 in anything. I think 11 is the highest, and I think, I have their stats up right here, so I kind of want to take a quick peek at what it was. Is this Kansas City that I have up right here? So they're ranked not in the top 10 in anything. So they're 23rd in attempts, 16 in yards, 22 in touchdowns, and then yards per carry attempt, they're at 12th. So they're not in top 10 in terms of rushing for anything. So you have to believe that the Chiefs aren't going to come out and just start running, especially missing pieces to their offensive line. You're going to have to look for the Buccaneers to believe that it's going to be a pass. It's going to be important for them, deciphering whether it's going to actually be a run play or not. You have to believe that the Chiefs, they're not going to really rely on their running game too much. Granted, the last few weeks, the running game has looked pretty good, but they were also in the lead in those games. Like against the Bills, you could argue, Damian Williams had a great game. A lot of his yards came in junk time when they were very far ahead. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense is a lot better. Their offense is, in my opinion, much better than what the Bills showed that they were. I thought the Bills were a fantastic offense, but it showed that they're not quite there. The Bills had a suspect running game going into that. I don't think Singletary is the answer for them, and I think that's what's really holding them back is they don't have a well-rounded running game. And if there's anything you can fault the Chiefs for going into this game, it's that they're not going to have the running game that they need to have. So that's probably going to be the biggest thing. On top of all that, though, outside of the rushing things, the one big thing that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers must focus on going into this game, and I cannot stress this enough, must focus on is preventing those chunk plays. When you look at what the Kansas City Chiefs have done with 20-plus yard plays this year, they are second in completions of 20-plus yards. Last week, 71-yard catch for Tyreek Hill made the entire Buffalo Bills defense look like a fool, like in one collective group all at once. I mean, they can not only put up numbers, they can move the ball, and they can move the ball in massive plays. They won the Super Bowl last year because of Tyreek Hill and his 61-yard catch that he had there towards the end of the game last year. I mean, they will rip you, and it's funny because this stat is 20-plus yards, but I'm legitimately curious what the stat would be if they were counting it for 30-plus and 40-plus yards, because they'd probably be first. I would be shocked if they weren't first because they have so many plays of 40-plus yards. It's absurd. So when you look at that, Tampa Bay needs to prevent those big chunk plays. That's what the Kansas City Chiefs are best at, in my personal opinion, is ripping you for those really big plays when it matters most. They have the speed to do it. They have the quarterback to do it. And so preventing those 20-plus yard gains are going to be huge. And when I say 20-plus, I mean more so those 30, 40, 50-yard plus gains. You cannot beat the Kansas City Chiefs if they're dinking and dunking on you for 30-plus yards a pass. That's not a recipe for winning. That is a recipe to be going home in your own stadium as losers of the Super Bowl. So they're ranked 10th in allowing plays of 20-plus yards. So they're in the top 10, not necessarily the absolute best, but they are among the best. So if they can prevent those big chunk plays from happening, put the pressure on Mahomes, don't let the receivers get downfield or as far downfield as they probably want, force Mahomes to throw the football earlier than he wants to. You want to make sure Tyreek Hill, because I mean, this dude runs, what is it, like a 4.3 or a 4.2 something, 40-yard dash. He can be down the field in just a handful of seconds. You need to get to him quickly so that Hill can't get down the field. Force them to, and I want to say force them to dump a pass down, but then you're giving it to Travis Kelce, so it's like you have a headache trying to figure that whole thing out. The Chiefs have just one hell of an offense, and I hate to sound like I'm sitting here stroking the Chiefs, because it's like everyone is right now, and you can't really. It's hard to not. Even as a fan, I sit there sometimes and I think, wow, the NFL just sits here talking about the Chiefs all the time. But when you put together the numbers that I did before this show and I was preparing for everything, I was like laughing to myself, thinking, okay, I guess I understand now why this is all they talk about. Is because 13 touchdowns, no picks, 134.2 rating when under pressure. Like, that is stupid. That doesn't even make sense. That does not even make sense, statistically speaking. Like, that doesn't even, it seems like Mahomes is more comfortable under pressure than he is not under pressure. Like, explain that to me. Somebody make sense of that, because I certainly cannot. But those are just a handful of some of the things that, the teams really have to look at in terms of if they want to win this Super Bowl. So the big takeaways, just bringing the pressure to Tom Brady, keeping the ball away from him as well. Obviously, pressure is one thing, but making sure he does not have the time to push the ball down the field for 400, 500 yards. He's done it already a couple times in Super Bowls before. He owns the top 2 records for passing yards. You cannot just let him throw all over you. You literally cannot just let him do that. As far as for the Buccaneers go, like I said, Tyreek Hill is probably their number one priority. He's the one that's going to burn you for that 70-yard play when you least need that to be happening to you. So, shutting down Tyreek Hill, I feel, is probably the most important thing. Yeah, you're going to have to deal with Travis Kelce ultimately, but I think dealing with Travis Kelce might be a little bit better, because he's not going to rip you for as many yards in terms of yards after catch as Tyreek Hill will. So that's probably what I would look at for that. And then again, the big matchup is going to be the offensive line for the Chiefs. Watch out for that. The pressure is going to be real. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they can get to the quarterback. They did it 48 times this season. They did it 2 times the last time they played the Kansas City Chiefs. They have to get there 3 or 4 times, period. That's going to be huge for them. If they don't get there, they're going to be in some trouble. So they got to get to the quarterback. They have to. Outside of that, though, that's pretty much everything I have to talk to you guys today. One more time for the question of the day. If you were not here for the start of the show, I asked everybody, who do you have for the Super Bowl in terms of passing yards? Brady or Mahomes? Who's throwing for more? Brady owns the top 2 records. I mentioned that already. Brady and Kurt Warner, the only 2 people to throw for over 400 yards. Brady did it twice, Warner once. So it would not be a surprise to see Brady, toss up another 400. I personally have Patrick Mahomes throwing for more yards. The last time these two met, Mahomes had 100 more yards than Tom Brady did. Yeah, roughly about 120 yards more than Brady. So I think that the Chiefs do have a little bit more firepower, but at the same time, I think the Buccaneers offense is clicking on a level they were not clicking that first time they met. So it's going to be very interesting to see just how these two teams play out, who throws the ball more. But I would say if you're going to make predictions, Brady's going to be somewhere around like the 320 to 340 yard range. Mahomes might be like 350 to 375 if we're really getting into a shootout or something like that. I could see both quarterbacks throwing for 3+ touchdowns with ease. It's going to really come down to just pressure and turnovers. Who's going to make the mistake? Because both of these offenses are very, very good and very hard to stop. But other than that, that's pretty much it for the show. I appreciate anyone who sat down and watched this. Leave the show a like if you enjoy what you see. I'm very happy with the way today's episode went. I did a lot of planning for this. I wanted to make sure that I could break down everything that was important for you guys to really see and understand where I'm coming from when I pick my winners and stuff like that. I guess I should maybe announce who I'm going to pick for a winner. As far as winners go, I'm looking at the Chiefs. I don't want to doubt Tom Brady because, this is his 10th Super Bowl appearance. It'll be his 7th win if he does win. He has the experience, but that Chiefs offense, I just keep going back to saying it, is just really, really hard to stop. They are really, really good, and I just have a hard time seeing anyone but the Chiefs winning the Super Bowl. I thought the Chiefs were going to win the Super Bowl at the beginning of the season, and they're looking just as good, if not better, than I expected them to at this point in the season. So that's who my pick is for the Kansas City Chiefs. So if you're going to answer 2 questions today, who's going to have more passing yards in the Super Bowl, comment that down below. Brady or Mahomes, and also who do you have? I have the Chiefs winning. It's probably going to be a close scoreline, maybe similar to what they had, maybe a little bit more. If anything, it'll be like 31-28 Chiefs, something like that. But that's it for me, everybody. I appreciate everyone for joining me on this beautiful Monday morning, and by beautiful, I mean where I'm living, we are getting an absolute blizzard outside right now. Hope you enjoy the rest of your week. We're going to be back again. The show has been changed to 1 p.m. Eastern time start times every Monday and Thursday. There's a potential that there might be a little bit of a delay in that this Thursday because of some pre-planned things I had before I decided to transition to the Monday-Thursday schedule. I will be posting updates in between my live days. If you didn't catch the video I posted on Sunday, I broke down the entire Matthew Stafford trade when that went down the night before. I broke it all down the next morning when I got up and I saw the news. So I'll be doing little things like that, kind of like instant replays of the breaking news to kind of break stuff down for you guys is what I'm calling them. So check those out. They're very short, like 2.5 minute videos if they're going to be anything. I don't want to take up too much time with those. I just want them to be quick little breakdowns of important things going on. But that's it, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your Monday. Have a good rest of your week. I hope to see you all Thursday. Thank you, and bye-bye.
When I see you dancing, I'm like, hola, 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 hola. With your move fancy, make me wanna hola, 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 hola. I got your attention, spending that moolah, 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 moolah. I'm a drop popping pocket, swola, 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 swola.
You're listening to the Greeks Gridiron, live with Ethan Haristadoulou.
Swola, 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 swola. Swola, 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 swola.